Hello and welcome. I'm Karen McNenny, author, mediator, co-parent specialist, and divorce consultant. And this is the Good Divorce Show, where we don't just talk about how to get divorced, but how to be divorced. Divorce is not a weapon, it's a tool. And when used well, it can be a tool for transformation. Thanks for being here. Let's dive in. Thanks for joining me today, and I want to just celebrate your commitment to take time to learn more about divorce, to become educated, not just in how we get divorced, but how to be divorced, the long tail of divorce that comes with us. And just showing up here today is an act of courage for those of you that are just divorce curious in the middle of it or in the aftermath. It's never too late to have a good divorce. And today is a unique show because I'm bringing on an adult child of divorce who has a cautionary tale. And often we always highlight the very best way that we can do divorce. But there are lessons to be learned from those who have come through divorce as the child, the thing that should be at the center of all of our decisions. So today with me is Kate Liles. And she has overcome a lot of adversity and challenges living across two homes. She has always tried to do it with grace and understanding and has a gentle heart towards her parents and knowing they were just doing the best they could. But today she's going to unfold some of the do's and don'ts that would have changed her childhood. She has been married to her sweet husband, Tim, for nearly 13 years, and they have three great kiddos, Ash, Evie, and Cam. And celebrating with Kate as she recently graduated with her Bachelor's of Science in Education, starting a career as an educator in the pre-K to 6 classroom. So welcome to the show, Kate Liles.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And this is a nice catch up for Kate and I. Kate has been part of the Good Divorce movement from the beginning. She's been my executive assistant, my podcast producer, my social media wrangler, my administrative support. And for 3 years, we worked tightly. And Kate, I'm just so happy to have you here as we also celebrate the birth of this book,
Yay.
which she has been there all along the way and continues to support the Good Divorce movement actively in the business and from afar as someone who really understands the movement. So thanks, Kate.
Yes. Thank you and congratulations. So exciting.
Yeah, it sure is. Kate, if you would be so kind and take us back in time to your childhood and just give us a little bit of context, how old you were when your parents got divorced, were there other siblings, and what were some of the early logistical decisions that were made around where kids live?
Sure. So I have an older brother. I'll start there. We did all of this life together with our parents being divorced and continued to do so. He is a year older, or I should say he's about 10 months older. We're Irish twins. And our parents got married after he was born. So they were married, had me within that year. And then I had just turned one, a little over one, and they decided to get divorced. It wasn't working, as I tell my kids, because they're now asking, why are they not together? I'm like, well, they fell out of love and they still like each other. They get along okay. Like, they just couldn't be together. In everything, I mean, I was a baby. I didn't know any better. I've never known my parents together. They're great people. And they both got remarried almost immediately, like within a year or two. And it was always, we lived with mom full time, which meant we sometimes lived at grandma and grandpa's house with mom. And that was how it was set up. It was full time with mom. And then every other weekend was dad. Holidays were kind of iffy. I don't really remember there being a set schedule. It was just, okay, you're at dad's for this one, or half the day you'll be at dad's and half the day you'll come back to mom's. As we got older, we had a bigger say in it, but it was very divided. It was very much like Christmas. I remember always being like, hey, I have to ask for kind of double the things to make sure that I have it at mom's and dad's, because sometimes one parent in particular wouldn't let some things come home to moms. So it was one of those where you're like, okay, well, I guess I'm just asking for double. And that was a lot of
Mhm.
childhood holidays, Christmas, birthdays, things like that.
That there were always 2 parties because your parents
Yes.
couldn't be side by side at a
Mhm.
celebration for their children.
Yes, and that happened right
Yeah.
up until getting married. So we can talk about
Mm.
that later, but they did come together for my graduation, so I won't, I won't spoil all of
It
that, but
just
yes.
happened.
Mhm.
Yeah, but what you're really highlighting is that that is unique, and you're in your 30s now. It's
Yes.
been decades and
Mhm.
still a family divided.
Yes.
And when you were talking about Christmas, if I'm understanding right, like you might get a gift and
Mhm.
then you wanna take it to your other home because it's your gift and go play with it there, have it
Mhm.
there, a special blanket, I don't know, toys. But it was like, "No, that stays at this house."
Yes, very much. It
Yeah.
was, "You got it here, it stays here." Even though that was every other weekend. Um,
Mm.
Mom didn't care as
Right?
much,
And
it was our stuff, but yes, coming from one side, it was very much that way. "You got it here, it was from us, or it was from somebody on this side, so it will stay here."
mm.
Mhm.
Yeah, and as a child, how did that impact you?
Oh, it was hard. And I didn't realize how hard it was until I got older, where I was like, "Oh, nobody should have told me I couldn't take a toy or an outfit I got. I just wanted to play with it, or I wanted to wear it to school and show off, and it couldn't be that
Mhm.
way." And it was definitely something I brought into my kids' childhood, where it was holidays became our family thing, and if they wanted to take something somewhere, they could take it somewhere. There was it didn't only live in one house. It didn't only live, at grandma's house because grandma bought it as a toy. It exists
Right?
for you to play with while you're a kid, because 'cause you're only a kid for so long.
Yeah. And I would suggest to you listening that a good guideline is don't ever buy your child something that you're gonna then become possessive about. Now, sometimes it's we have a whole computer Nintendo setup, and you're not gonna tear that down and put it back up in another place that right? Within reason. Um, but as you said, special clothes and fun things and toys, if you are concerned about your child having that with them and making that choice, then I would say don't give them that gift. And as you're highlighting, Kate, it suddenly puts you directly in the middle of your 2 parents.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Mm.
Tell me a little bit about, taking into context that they got together for your wedding and your graduation, but
Mhm.
that it's really rare.
Starting from my high school graduation, it was very interesting because I had 2 graduation parties, one at one house, one at the other. And that was everything. Birthdays growing up, obviously holidays, all of those things. Always separate, always done, and it was double the work on me as a child because I had to make sure that this parent was getting enough attention for my party or the other parent was getting enough, and did I do enough? Did I do too much for one parent and not enough for the like, always playing that middleman, and the referee of, "Is this okay? Is everyone happy?" And I still can sway towards that, but I try to just let it be now because after my wedding or before my wedding, I had 2 bridal showers, same situation. It was one side and the other. And, it was okay. I got a lot of wine glasses because for some reason there was just double of everything. And I was like, did I do that from growing up and asking for double? Or did I just, we have no idea what happened. But it was one of those where I was like, okay, this is now showing up in my adult life where life needs to change. And so we got
Yeah.
married. They sat together at the wedding, not the same tables or anything, but they sat next to each other in the aisle, and it was okay. It went fine. But it wasn't until the kids were born that things started to shift where I went, nope, I'm not going to double up on parties. I am not going to celebrate 100 Christmases. And we do
Mhm.
like 3 Christmases now, but it's still on our own time. It's not Christmas Day. We're rushing around like I was as a kid.
Yeah.
It's now, hey, this is the date we have available. If that works for you, it works for us. And
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah, but my graduation, they sat together at graduation. They my mom and stepmom, for the most part, along with one of my best friends and some other people, helped create a graduation party that was one party, not double the gifts and not double anything. It was just
Mhm.
one, it was a beautiful celebration. And
Your most recent
my
graduation
most
that just
recent
happened.
graduation, yeah. So
Yeah.
at 35 years old,
You
and
got to have one party.
one party. And at the very end, after everything was cleaned up, I saw my mom and stepmom hug. And that is the first and only time that they have hugged. And I stood there and I was like, my, oh my gosh. Like, I didn't know what to do with myself. So I
Yeah.
just like stood there and watched it and just, I think it healed a little piece of my childhood to go, okay, okay, we made it out. Okay, they can get along. Like, it only took 33-ish years, which is crazy. But to see it actually
And
happen,
that
I was like, oh my gosh.
and that is so striking because a lot of people do eventually get there. Like, why
Yes,
do we wait so
I
long?
don't know. And
Just don't you don't have to wait.
right.
It's like just a waste of love
It is,
to
and nobody
withhold it
blew
all those
up.
years.
No, everything happened the way it would have happened all along. It
Yeah.
was yeah, yeah.
Something else I heard you really talk about was you felt a responsibility to make sure both your parents felt like they were getting equal attention, that they were taken care of, that you had an emotional load of caregiving to your parents. Is that accurate? And yeah.
It is. It absolutely is, and I know I still do that to this day of I didn't worry about it as much on my graduation day this year or now, um, but it's always in the back of my mind of, does it look like I'm talking to this parent too much? Have I given too much attention in front of the other one? Not so much like separate where it used to be, what if they heard that I did this at mom's house or if they heard I did this at dad's house and they're like, you don't do that, I don't play that as much. It's more of in person. I'm like, okay, am I smiling too much for this one? And am I joking too much? It's crazy how it just continues to just like seep through and you're like, I'm a grown adult. I don't need to worry about their
Yeah.
feelings. And I know that. And I'm very self-aware where I'm like, oh, I'm doing it. I'm doing that thing. But
Mhm,
it's still,
mhm.
to do that for 30 years or over 30 years, it's tough
Oh,
to let go of.
yeah. And never was your job to do in the first place.
No.
And I really want you to hear this, that as you are navigating your divorce, that your children are not your caregiver, they're not your therapist, they're not your coach or spy or
Oh.
or the
Mhm.
messenger.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you find yourself being that go between even the communication with your parents?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Not, there were definitely moments of feeling like the spy where you're like, okay, I gotta tell them that this happened or like this is what they've been doing. Um, but
Would
when
they
it,
ask you like, "Hey, is your dad such and such? Hey, what happened? Was your mom like,
I
were
think we would
they
just tell
what
on
how's
them.
your new girl?" Yeah.
Because my dad had been married since I was, I think, 3. He got remarried when I was
Uh-huh.
3. So it was one of those like, I think we just told what happened.
Mm,
I don't remember so much of the, did your dad do this or did your mom do this or say that? No, it wasn't so much that I can remember. I mean, there's so much that did happen. A lot of it was more um just the emotional leaning of, oh, now I want to put it this way, I guess. Your mom or your dad is this, and they would pin those kinds of things against us, like my brother and I. Your dad is this, and then, a name would be called. And I want to say my mom didn't do it quite as much as others did it. And a lot of times it was the friends or family outside of my parents that would be like,
mm.
your dad is this. And I'm like, oh, I don't think that, right? But like as a kid, you're like, "Oh, okay,
Yeah,
my dad is this to this person who is also important to me." So like playing that field
yeah.
was very, very tough as a child.
I was curious how they spoke about each other, and it sounds like there was some negativity not only between your parents, but then what we call those shadow figures of the
Mhm.
family who are also chiming in with negative. And I think we forget that as a child, you are an extension of both of those people. You
Mhm.
identify with both of those people. Can you say a little bit more about you say that was tough on you
Mhm.
and again why parents really need to pay attention to their language?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing is that I am kind of my mom's mini me. So I see so much of myself in her and have since I was a child. And in public, we lived in a small town, so it was, "Oh, you're this person's daughter. Yes, you look just like her, you sound like her." As I get older, it's, "Oh my gosh, I thought you were your mom for a second." So, hearing the negatives like that, it absolutely shaped a lot of me throughout childhood and teenhood, a little bit into adulthood. It was, "Well, if my mom is this, maybe I'm that too." And it was always questioning in the back of my mind, "Am I also like that parent?" In the negative part. And I tried to always
Mhm.
be like, "Nope, I'm the positive piece," but when you're constantly told the negative stuff and you're reminded many, many times that, "Oh, dad is like this and blah, blah, blah," you're like, "Oh, well, then I must also have those qualities. I know that I'm half mom and half dad, so I
Oh,
must also be at
yeah.
least half of that and half of this." Like, I am a combination
Yeah.
of things I don't wanna be a combination of.
Yeah, I try to remind parents that you need to love your children more than you dislike your co-parent. And most of us can say, "Oh yes, my love for my child is greater than my dislike of my co-parent." And not everybody is going to come through a divorce and feel like they're going to be friends. We just try to go for friendly. And it sounds like your parents have finally arrived there, Kate.
I think so. One can hope.
Yeah. Well, when we come back from the break, we're going to hear a little bit more from adult child of divorce, Kate Liles, also part of the Good Divorce team here at McNenny Enterprises. And we're going to look at the long shadow of divorce and how that impacts our choices going forward around relationship and marriage and how we perceive marriage and divorce in our adult life, having come through divorce as a child. Stay with us. If this conversation is resonating, there are tools to help you put it into practice. Grab my book, The Good Divorce: How to End Your Marriage Without Ending Your Family. It offers clear guidance for navigating divorce with intention and care, especially when kids are involved. And for ongoing support and education, you can join me at the Good Divorce Academy, which is my online community and classroom. And if you'd like to work with me directly, you're going to find more information at thegooddivorcecoach.com. Thanks for staying with me. I'm proud of you and hope that you are gaining value out of our conversation today with Kate Liles, adult child of divorce. And I want to dive in, Kate, to something that happens so often, especially the younger the children are, which you said your parents remarried,
Mhm.
which meant there were step parents, there might have been step siblings, half siblings. Can you paint a picture of the larger family tree
Yeah.
that came about in your childhood?
Yeah. So there was a limb that fell off essentially. My mom got remarried. So did my dad. My dad got remarried, I think like 93, and then my mom got remarried in 94. So it was pretty close. I remember being in a couple weddings as a little kid. I don't remember them other than I was 3 and I was 4 or something like that. My dad is still married to my stepmom. So all these years. And my mom has gotten remarried again. And a lot of that came from the not great relationship that it was. And I think my mom jumped into it
So
too
her
soon. Yeah.
second, I just want
Yeah.
to clarify. So her second
Mhm.
marriage ended in
It
divorce.
did. It did.
And how long was that husband in the picture?
Oh, I want to say that one was about 4 years, 5 years. Again, I was so little. I think
Sure.
I want to say it was like
And
94
he
to
had
98,
children?
99. Mhm.
He had children from a previous relationship?
Yeah, so his oldest was actually, I want to say 7 years younger than my mom. So he was a little bit older.
Oh,
Mhm. So that was a thing for my
I
mom.
see.
That was a point of contention, and she did the best she could, but she wasn't much older than his eldest. So that was interesting to hear about as an adult too, where I'm like, what was that like? And her stories are, yeah, it's what I would imagine.
Yeah. Were there other children younger than that you built a relationship
There
with?
was, so interesting enough, he had 3 daughters, and the middle one's name was Katie, and I went by Katie as a child. So she was Big Kate and I was Little Kate or Little Katie. So she was there, but she was still older than me. I want to say his 2 oldest were teenagers when we were around. And then his youngest was only a year older than me, so about my brother's age. And
Mhm.
though we played together a lot and we shared rooms for those few years, it was a very hard relationship because it was very much she got away with everything and acted, I mean, I hate to say this, but she was one of those kids that you're like, oh, that was a brat. And I remember her being called a brat all the time, which that word is triggering for me just because I was called it as a kid too. And I was like, but I don't act like that. I don't act like what you're describing. And though she was acting in a certain way, as an adult too, I'm like, well, she was just a kid looking for attention. And
Mhm.
so that husband just made excuses for the behaviors and never disciplined. So my mom was the
Yeah.
disciplinarian of these other kids, and they didn't like her because of it. And we were just kind of caught in the middle of all of it, my brother and I. And
Mm.
there was another child that came from that. So my brother, who's 6 years younger than me, came from that marriage. And I,
They had a child
yep,
together.
and I
Mhm.
stepped right into the role of mothering and protecting him from everything that I had to witness. And I
Yeah.
still, to this day, kind of mother sometimes. And just because I remember wanting to protect him and I couldn't protect myself, but I could protect him more. And I definitely did that. And then once my mom went through that divorce, I was like, oh, I really need to protect him from divorce. Like, I just knew as a
Wow.
kid that that wasn't okay. And I was getting older, so I was understanding more of it and
Mm.
seeing where the safety nets needed to be for him.
What was it like going through a second divorce? Because now you were also divorcing siblings, even if you weren't close, you started to share a family
Mhm.
together and there were relationships built.
Yeah.
And now they were, as you said, a limb fell off the
It
tree.
did.
What was that like?
It was very weird. My mom moved out of the house and they had just bought it. I don't even know if they were in it a year when they bought it. And so it was like I was just starting this new life in this new house, and it was a big old, like a Victorian style home, basically. And I was just starting to get used to it. And then I was pulled from it. And we were back to grandma and grandpa's house, which we had been before my mom got married. So it was just, I was always caught in these different worlds and never really settled anywhere. Even though my dad has been in
Mm.
the same house for 30 plus years, I wasn't there enough. And so I was pulled from
Right.
another house, another foundation that I started to build on as a kid. And I remember there being a pool and like we were in town and that's what I remember. And other than that, I was like, where does all my stuff go? And most of it went to
Mhm.
storage. And I was like, oh, and the siblings, we didn't really talk after that. The youngest daughter, so my stepsister at the time, she was in my grade. So we would talk here and there, but it just was like gone. Like the saw was taken to it and that limb was gone. It was sent away.
Yeah.
So yeah. And to this day,
And it
I don't have a relationship with them, but I'll ask about
yeah.
them now and then. And
Mhm.
yeah, it was weird. Very strange.
Mhm. Mhm. And your mother then remarried a
Mhm.
third
Yep.
time. It's still in that
She
marriage?
is, yes. So that she got married in
Okay.
2000. So they've been together 26 years now. Mhm.
Yeah. So some stability there.
Yes.
There was a moment in time when your stepdad showed up
Mm.
to as an
Oh
intervention.
my gosh.
Tell us this moment in time.
So I remember my brother and I, my oldest brother and I, we were at our dad's house for the weekend, and all of a sudden my this was when my mom was going through her divorce with her second husband. And he
Oh.
shows up at my dad's house, which was very strange because I knew they were separating. I understood that. And he came in to have like an intervention and basically to tell us that he wasn't the bad guy, that my mom chose to get the divorce and he didn't want it. And I remember all this happening and I was like, I don't think this is okay. And the first thing I did when I got home on Sunday night was, Mom, so ex-husband came over. And she was like, what? And I was like, yeah, that didn't seem right. And her reaction definitely told me that it wasn't. And the way that he was trying to be like, I'm this good person. I didn't do this. I don't want this. And I kind of think he was also trying to be like, get your mom back with me. It definitely felt like, now I'm like reminiscing on it over the years. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure he was trying to be this good guy. Like, I want your mom back. Ew, such a strange thing to do.
It sounds like he was leveraging the kids, using the kids as pawns. Again, kids shouldn't be mediators, communicators, messengers, spies. And he really went out of his way to get access to you kids when he knew your mom wouldn't be around.
Right.
And then trying to put guilt, responsibility on all of you.
Yes.
That sounds really inappropriate and difficult as a child.
And it's like, to me, the fact that my dad allowed him to come in and knew that that was going to happen, I'm like, the way that they teamed up against the kids, obviously, but I mean, like, yeah, that's totally fine. That's totally normal to just come in and try to play this role of something. Like, it's disappointing.
Right, because your dad allowed it.
And they weren't friends. They were never friends. So it was so strange. And I just remember knowing it was not okay and knowing I had to tell my mom.
It was like the two ex-husbands linking arms against your mom.
Against mom, yep.
And your mom is your mom is your mom.
Yeah.
And we always talk about parental rights and my right to have and my right to time. Well, kids have rights.
They do.
And they have a right to have individual, independent relationships with both their parents that are different than you have to each other as co-parents, right? The kids didn't divorce either of you.
No.
That was never their plan. You divorced each other. And the children get to carry on and have the relationships that they choose.
Yeah.
What would you say to the listeners about the impact of just dating and people coming and going in the family story? And what did your parents do that was thoughtful? What did they do that was maybe a blind spot? What would you recommend?
So the one nice thing that, now that I think about it, is, I mean, my dad got married when I was young enough to not know about the divorce, not young enough to really understand the different marriages and everything. But it was just my stepmom. That's all there's been, is my stepmom with my dad. And my mom did have another 2 marriages after my dad. But there wasn't, we've talked about the revolving doors. And my mom was really good about, if she did date anybody else, I have no idea. I, to this day, couldn't tell you. And I haven't even asked, just because I don't remember other figures. I remember it was, here's this person. And I actually remember one time that my stepdad, that has been in my life now for 26 years, I remember my mom going to a kickboxing class, and he took us to McDonald's to basically introduce himself, really get to know him. And of course, as a kid, you're like, yes, McDonald's. So like 1 brownie point. But she, from what I can tell you, she didn't keep introducing us to people. It was when she knew that the relationship was going to go somewhere that she was like, yep, now spend some time with my kids. And usually it wasn't alone, but it was, that situation. We were across the street, but we really got to know the person before it moved forward. And then my mom would openly talk about, okay, he proposed, we're going to get married. Okay. Like that's fine. But there weren't revolving doors. It was, this is now the person in your life. So kudos to mom on that, because I'm sure if there were other people, she probably did struggle with that. Like, do I bring them in? And now I have to ask mom. Just curiosity.
Yeah. So really the message is to be thoughtful and discreet
Absolutely.
in your dating, and to know that that doesn't have to involve your kids, and probably shouldn't,
Right.
because they're going to attach.
Mhm.
And then every time someone leaves the family, or,
Yeah.
dating even for several months,
Mhm.
and you're like, great, we're all going to go on vacation together. Are you certain that that relationship is going to stick?
Yes.
Because as kids attach to new people coming in, and then when that is severed
Mhm.
repeatedly over time, it starts to impact their attachment style in their adult life.
Yes.
And a lot of times, children will either become avoidant. I can't trust
Oh,
anything.
mhm.
You're going to leave
Mhm.
me. Everyone
Mhm.
has left. I used to trust the adults in my life to come and love me, and then they would just leave. And then they would take playmates,
Yeah.
those new siblings.
Mhm.
Or they become anxious attachment. I'm so afraid you're going to leave.
Yeah.
I have to smother. I'm constantly nervous and not
Yeah.
trusting the love in front of me. So we have to be really thoughtful about those new relationships.
Yes. And I can say, like,
And I'm
sorry. The only thing that I
no,
do
please
remember
go
was
ahead.
being like, "Do we have to move again? And are we leaving grandma and grandpa's house?" Like, I always remember those were kind of the come back to questions of, what does this look like for my life? Do my toys go? Does this go? And my mom's third marriage, there wasn't a child that came with, so it was just us and 3 kids. So, and they did end up having they had a child together. So that's my final brother. And yeah,
Mm,
but I think there was always in the back of my mind to be like, okay, if they fight, is that going to be it? And there's a lot of that does start to show up as you get older. Where you're like, oh, one fight and that's it. And I thought that's how
mm,
divorce was. It's you got, they fought, they got divorced because that's what it seemed like for a while.
yeah.
So yeah, just really
Mhm.
laying a good foundation and not bringing in those relationships until there is the true foundation of, yep, this is working and it's been a long enough time and you've seen all the faces you need to see and that
Mhm.
exist, because I'm
Yeah.
sure that was kind of part of that second marriage of not realizing what was going to start surfacing.
Would you mind going into kind of the current state of your life? And you have 3 brothers from 3 different fathers.
Mhm.
You have your own marriage with 3 kids,
Yeah.
and how being a child of divorce, and in this case, a dysfunctional family growing up, is that
Yeah.
fair to say?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, right, a lot of dysfunction, still ongoing conflict, harboring
Mhm.
grudges and bitterness, and you
Yep.
kids having to navigate all that. How has the shadow of divorce influenced your adult relationships, even your marriage?
Yeah. So I'll start with about high school. So like when dating started for me, and it was I had one long-term boyfriend in late high school and small town. So it was one of those like they knew my parents, and the boyfriend I had in high school, his parents had been married since high school basically. And it was one of those he couldn't understand divorce and I couldn't understand parents together. And
Hmm,
I was like, I would struggle with these things and it was, oh, it's not a big deal. But it was a big deal to me because, well, mom is here and dad is here. And it was funny because for a while, my parents lived on the same road, but about 4 or 5 miles away from each other. And that boyfriend's house was right in between. So I was like, I truly feel like I am in the middle of all of this. But he couldn't understand it. And I
wow.
struggled with that because it would show up a lot in how we dated. And yes, we were teenagers, but it was one of those like, oh, will we have a marriage? Like, would we get married and be like his parents and be together since high school? And a lot of things surfaced when I started going to college where I was like, yeah, I don't like how there was a lot of things that we didn't so much like about each other anymore. And I went, oh, okay, well, we can separate. We don't have to like get married and then divorce. Like there's
Right,
that. And I knew that what I was looking for in a husband was someone who did understand, and whether or not they understood divorce, but really just understood that I come from a different background. And sure enough, I met my husband and our stories were almost identical. his is very sad. There's a lot to his, and abandonment plays a big part in his, where mine was just that confliction of, do you care about me to build a foundation and keep that foundation? Because I need that, and I've always been looking for that. And he was looking for that too. And I think the biggest thing was just understanding that there's a lot that comes from a divorced household when the child is in the middle of it. And he too was put in the middle of his. So I was looking for somebody who could understand that and not hold it against me. Not that the previous boyfriend did. It was just, it never seemed to match up. Like it never felt like he understood. And I didn't want, it's not on him to understand my parents' divorce. It's not on me to understand it, but understand me as a person from divorce. And my husband and I think for 3 or 4 hours talked about it on our first date. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think I'm going to marry this person. And it wasn't the trauma bonding so much as it was just like someone who really, truly sees me and understands me. And I felt that for him too.
Yeah, empathy for each other.
Yeah.
And did either of you have hesitation about getting legally married? Marriages end in divorce. We're, from our own childhood. If there's not a great case study.
Yeah. There weren't any hesitations. I think we dated for a year before we got engaged. And I know both of our parents jumped right in and got married within like the year of dating. And we took the year and then a year of planning. So it was one of those, like, we just took time and we lived together almost right off the bat. It just happened that way. And, against parents' judgments and, oh, it's not, I felt like that was our best way to really learn who we were. Yes. And I don't think my parents had that. I don't think they ever lived together. I mean, they definitely didn't live together without kids. Like, my brother was there before they got married, and then I was there after. So they didn't have the opportunity to just exist together. And we did. And we got to build a life and really make that foundational piece strong before kids were born. So there's so many pieces where you're like, yep, glad we did that. I'm glad we went that route and did that. And yeah.
And for the person listening who's feeling like, oh my gosh, I totally screwed up my kids. We did everything wrong. If I could go back and do it over. You have a really interesting perspective about your own adult accountability. What would you say to those parents who feel like, I didn't know better?
Yeah. Well, they'll be okay. Your kids will be okay. And that's not to say there isn't therapy. I have talked to a therapist many times over my lifetime, more so in my adulthood, because I was like, wait a second, I'm starting to remember and feel things. And my oldest brother, he struggled, and I think he still does. He's never really come to the same feelings and acceptance and just going, you know what, past me is sad and is hurting and will probably always be. We talk about the inner child. And he struggles with like my dad's relationship and blame and a lot of those things that I went, I was a kid, and those feelings, they're still valid. But I'm an adult now, and I get to make my own life and my choices. And they are based off of, the divorce of, I don't want that for my family. And I never want my kids to feel like they are playing referee in a game between mom and dad, nor do I want them to feel that with their grandparents or, step grandparents, which we don't refer to them as that. Like, they have their own names and we explain as we need to, but I never wanted that to surface in my life. So I took ownership of it when I got married and went, you know what? Now it's my life. And my parents, yes, they raised me, but I get to raise myself now. And I really get to be the author of this chapter or the rest of the story.
Yeah. Oh, that's just so beautiful, Kate. And taking that personal responsibility is not always easy to do, because a lot of us choose to hold on to resentment and bitterness and anger. And it really is a thief to the soul and the life that we'd rather live. And you have found a way to recognize it and set it aside. And I'm sure not every day is perfect.
No. It's
Yeah.
not. But, there's a lot of good that does come out of, I don't know my parents together. And I think about that from time to time where I remember as a kid, I was like, I wish my parents were together. I didn't know any better. I was just wanting,
As
again,
you
wanting foundation.
as you think about them now with
Yeah.
their current partners,
Mhm.
what would you say about that initial decision to divorce and where they've ended up?
It was the right choice. And it was the right choice for my dad. It was the right choice for my mom, even through her 2 other marriages. Like, she found somebody who enjoys not only her kids, but like just life how she wants it and how they want it together, all these things. Like, it makes sense. And I could
Mhm.
never imagine my parents together. And it's funny just to think, I was like, wow, I remember saying that, and how silly, because in no world do I see them together. And they're both really great people. They're funny, and so many people enjoy their company, but together it's not a match. And yes,
Yeah.
they made 2 awesome kids, my brother
Yep.
and I, and we're that great thing that came from it. But no, oh no,
And
they're not
we
meant to be.
yeah, and so often we talk about compatibility and, the leading cause of divorce. People will say, "Oh, it's the drinking. Oh, it's the infidelity. Oh, it's
Yeah.
the we don't want to spend time in the same." Like, it really comes down to, are you compatible? And as you
Yeah.
were saying, Kate, if we don't spend enough time in that relationship, not everyone approves of living together or
Mhm.
becoming intimate partners before marriage. It is certainly more common, and it is certainly informative, because you're not just getting romantically married to someone, you are picking a roommate. You are
Yeah. Yes.
picking a lifelong intimate partner. Like, there's so a business financial partner. And I think sometimes we overly romanticize the love and excitement of marriage and forget
Yeah.
the business relationship that's being built, and that you want it to be built in a place of compatibility. So there is some
Mhm.
ease. We're not saying it's easy, but there should be ease even in the difficult times.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Kate Liles, out of the ashes, child of divorce, and really reestablishing a beautiful life with your husband and your children.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful, not only for you sharing your story today, but grateful for all the ways that you have helped to support the good divorce movement. And when you pick up the book, you'll see Kate in the acknowledgments, and now you'll know
Oh.
exactly who I'm talking about, because we don't do big things alone. And starting a movement around family centered divorce reform is a big movement, and it takes many soldiers. So thank you, Kate.
Of course. Thank you.
And I want to remind you today, everything will be okay in the end. And if it's not okay, it's not the end.